Hi, welcome to the 2020 World Manufacturing Forum North America. And our guest for this segment is Eduardo Gonzalez Diaz de Leon. Welcome, Eduardo.
Hey, welcome, Terry.
Thank you. I'm going to tell them a little bit about you, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the landscape of Mexico's automotive industry.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Eduardo is the president of 258 Consulting, LLC, where he helps companies on both sides of the U.S. and Mexico borders to find solutions for their sourcing, manufacturing, and sales expansion goals. Previously, Mr. Gonzalez was appointed Deputy Trade Commissioner of ProMexico for Arizona and Nevada. He also served as State Director of the ProMexico office in the Mexican state of Baja California, and formerly he worked as the commercial delegate for the Mexican Export Development Bank, Bancomext, in The Hague, Netherlands, and in Mexico as the risk manager. Mr. Gonzalez has helped foreign companies establish manufacturing operations in Mexico and find suppliers to source their manufacturing needs or services in the following industries: advanced manufacturing, which is the aerospace, automotive, and medical devices, food production, retail, tourism, and IT sector, among others. Mr. Gonzalez has extensive international market experience in business development, finance, and supply chain solutions. Welcome, and we look forward to your conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Terry. I'm very grateful for the World Manufacturing Forum to invite me to this event. And thank you, Terry, for the kind introduction and invitation to take part in this event. As Terry mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the automotive industry in Mexico, just for people, for members, and to understand what's going on in Mexico in that industry. So we'll start with a very brief history of the automotive industry in Mexico. We'll talk a little bit about the current situation and where the future is going to take us, at least as COVID-19 permits. We're going to also display the supplier map to see who's doing what and where. Talk a little bit about talent. Always when you're talking technology, I think it's good to talk about people. A brief touch upon the USMCA and what's going on in manufacturing 4.0 in Mexico. And at the end, if there are any questions, be happy to go over them. So let's begin. So the automotive industry in Mexico is sold as the Model T. It spans 90 years. Ever since the automotive industry has been working in the U.S., we have had some type of manufacturing on the Mexico side. The big three companies from Detroit have been in Mexico since or before World War II. But it was not until the 1970s when we really saw an expansion, growth, and foreign direct investment from foreign manufacturers, as that Volkswagen from Germany and Nissan from Japan. And by 2010, we saw a great expansion that has taken us to the current situation we are now. And the reason being is because the automotive industry is and has been one of the main strategic sectors for the Mexican government. So the country has become a great capacity to produce medium tech and high tech manufacturing. And they have offered a series of incentives, supports to bringing not only the automotive industry, but also other industries like the aerospace, IT, medical devices, among others. And one of the strategies the government started implementing was the famous Maquila program, which is now known as the IMEX. So the name is Programa de la Industria Manufacturera, Maquiladora y de Servicio de Exportación, IMEX, which permits companies the opportunity to bring in raw materials without any duties and transform them into a finished product. This has helped So the automotive industry, of course, but also other industries. But the industry that has benefited the most has been the automotive industry by any standards. And this type of programs has been assisting not only foreign companies, but also Mexican companies. So the Maquila program or the IMEX can be implemented by both foreign and national companies. And it helps a lot to increase manufacturing and bring in raw materials to be transformed into a finished product. And the industry has grown unbelievable from its starts in the 1970s to almost 6,000 companies or more. Of this, 5,000 companies are manufacturing companies, and 1,000 companies or more are service providers. And most of them are focused on the export market, and the 62% are focused on the manufacturing market. So there are more than 3 million people employed in this IMEX or Maquila industry. That's about close to 20% of the total employees in Mexico. And another thing that has helped the industries in Mexico, the manufacturing industries in Mexico, is that Mexico is one of the countries with the most free trade agreements in the world. Currently, there are 12 free trade agreements with 46 countries. So it makes it a great platform for companies to export not only to the North American market, but also to the European and Central and Latin American market. This gives access to companies that use Mexico as a platform to close to 1.1 billion consumers around the world. And there are also another free trade agreements that are being negotiated as we speak with Asian companies and other countries in Asia and Central America. So diving into the automotive industry. So in Mexico, we are the largest manufacturer of light vehicles in Latin America. We are the 6th largest manufacturer of light vehicles in the world. More than 43.6 million vehicles have been produced between 2005 and 2020. The contribution to the GDP, as we're going to see in the following presentations, is 20% of the total GDP. Mexico is home to 90 of the 100 largest auto parts companies in the world, with more than 25 trademarks. And Mexico is the world's 5th manufacturing and first exporter of heavy-duty vehicles. So as you can see, this is a very strategic sector for the Mexican economy. And like I mentioned before, it has a high percentage of the GDP in Mexico. More than 20% is the automotive industry. It matches the food industry in Mexico. Now, it's a very important industry where it only keeps on growing. And currently, the companies that are building automotives in Mexico are the ones you can see on the slide. So passenger vehicles, we got GM, Ford, Chrysler, Nissan, Honda, Toyota, Volkswagen, BMW, Kia. And on the commercial vehicles, we got Freightliner, Scania, Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, Kenworth, International. And there are also engine manufacturers like Detroit Diesel, MAN, and Cummins. And these companies are located all over Mexico, but mainly they are concentrated in the center of Mexico, or what it is known as the Bajío region. We have 24 OEM plants that manufacture motors, transmission for Ford, General Motors, Giant Motors, FCA, Toyota, Mazda, Nissan, Honda, Kia, Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi. You have also a lot of companies in the north of Mexico that they mainly supply the US market for parts. And you can see the center where you can find a lot of manufacturers and suppliers to the local automotive industry that is putting together cars in that region. Here's another map that shows where everybody is. You can see Ford is in Sonora. You can see Toyota is in the north in Baja California, across the border from California. We have Nissan in Aguascalientes, which is the yellow small state in the middle of Mexico. Honda, in the state of Mexico, near Mexico City. Nissan, Audi, and another Ford plants. A Kia plant in Nuevo León in the north of Mexico. BMW, and of course GM and Volkswagen in the center of Mexico, in El Bajío. If we talk about heavy vehicle industries, you see Kenworth in the north, who basically they supply a lot of Central American and Latin American markets. So they're very close to the Ensenada port, so they can ship their trucks from there. And then you can see from the center of Mexico, a nice corridor all the way to the north for other manufacturers like Scania, Cummins, Mercedes-Benz, Volvo. If we break it up by regions, we can see that in the central south of Mexico, we have a lot of suppliers and very good names in the manufacturing industry, like Bosch, Eaton, which is also in the aerospace industry. Some local manufacturers like Goner, who has a very solid supply base and is also serving the automotive industry. A lot of injection molding, metal manufacturing, metal forming, a lot of upholstery. And again, it's concentrated on the center of Mexico, which is the Estado de Mexico, Puebla, and of course, Mexico City. You can see some other satellite manufacturing in the southwest of Mexico and southwest, taking advantage of the low wages in those regions. If we go to the Bajío region, or the center, where we can find Jalisco, Aguascalientes, Querétaro, you can see that the number is much greater. All these companies are supporting the local manufacturing industry. As we saw on the previous map, we got Nissan, Volkswagen, and all the big players. And all of these companies are supporting the manufacturing of those companies. I mean, you can see also Delphi is there in Querétaro, and other importing automotive and parts suppliers. They are also pretty big in the US. If we go to the north, the list gets a little bit smaller, but what we see is a lot of suppliers to the US automotive industry. So you can find all these companies, basically, they're there close to the border to supply mostly the US automotive industry, but also the Mexican automotive industry. And they're located there because of logistics issues or some other benefits that the companies see in locating their companies in those particular regions. South Texas, it makes a lot of sense to be there, near Alabama and other manufacturing hubs. If we go to the Northwest, the list is much slower. You can see Toyota, you can see some other also parts and manufacturers there. And they're there because you can probably ship easily parts from Long Beach that come from Asia or other sources, being transformed there into finished product and shipped either to the US automotive industry or to the Mexican automotive industry. That gives you an idea of the volume number of companies in those particular regions. Now, coming back to to Mexico, the importance of the automotive industry. There are more than 1 million people working in the related industry, about 55,000 working in OEMs, 400,000 in the auto parts industry, but also dealerships, aftermarket products, and mechanic shop. It is a great number of people that work in this industry. So 1 million people is quite a lot of people working in the industry. So if we look a little bit to the future, so what are the expectations? So what do we have looking forward? So with the impact of the COVID-19, probably Mexico is going to decrease their GDP to 9.5%, lower to what it is. And the expected growth of 2021 hopefully will be around 4.3%. In general, the automobile industry is expected to contract 50% around the world. The expected sales of vehicles in Mexico will be around 930,000 vehicles, and hopefully will reach 1 million by next year, 2021. The total manufacturing expectations for next year of vehicles in Mexico is 3.4 million vehicles. And to give you an idea, in 2019, this is the statistics for the light vehicle productions in Mexico. So you see GM is heading the list with 864,000, followed by Nissan, FCA, Volkswagen, Kia, among others. A total 3.7 million vehicles in 2019. The most known vehicle being manufactured in Mexico, the number one is the Silverado, followed by Ram, the T1 truck, Compass, the Sentra, Equinox, Fusion, Tacoma, Q5, the Audi Q5, and the Honda HR-V. Now, if we look for this year, how does it look? So up to October, so we're in line to producing close to the 4 million vehicles. You see, again, General Motors heading the list, followed by Nissan. And Chrysler, Volkswagen, and Kia are the main one. You can see some increments in the manufacturing. You see Mazda incrementing their production since last year, almost doubled the production. BMW almost tripled their production in Mexico. And Mercedes-Benz, you can see also a very considerable increment in their production compared to last year. So manufacturing is still going on in Mexico, and now let's talk a little bit about the supplier base that you can find in Mexico. So there are around 800 suppliers to the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 suppliers. Again, it's a very strategic sector for the Mexican economy. Thousands more independent suppliers of raw materials and services are all over Mexico, as you saw in the previous slides when we talk about the regions. one of the main regions in Mexico with suppliers are, again, Aguascalientes, where Nissan is, Chihuahua, where Ford is, Mexico City, Volkswagen, Nissan, Audi, BMW, and so on. So this concentration of suppliers has pushed companies to cluster themselves in associations. So the clusters that you see on the screens are the main clusters, depending by region. There are 10 main clusters. They are in Chihuahua, in the state of Mexico, Guanajuato, Nuevo León, Querétaro, San Luis Potosí, in the center of Mexico, Puebla, Tlaxcala, Coahuila. And these clusters, of course, they are a voice for policy, for negotiation, for investment promoting into the state. And as you can see from the years they were started, they're pretty recent organizations. So the clusterization of that industry is pretty new compared to other countries. But that creates a lot of joint work and a lot of push for policies and representation in the industry. Now, if we talk a little bit about talent in Mexico, the universities in Mexico, they have around 24,000 engineers being graduated from Mexican universities. About 2,000 of them end up in the automotive industry. And the main engineering specialties are the mechanic, the electronic, and mechatronic engineering. So currently there are around 330,000 engineers being employed by the automotive industry. Most of them are males. We have 22% of them are female, 77% of them are males. And of course, there's much work that has to be done to have a more balance between males and females in the engineering industry. Especially in the panel before mine, they were talking about how to get more girls involved in the STEM. Mexico is no exception. Now, if we talk about the USMCA, so with the new rules, I think there's a great opportunity to integrate a lot of small suppliers into the supply chain so they can comply with the new rules. So the new rules are going to have a big consideration to have more content of North American parts. So 75% of the total vehicle has to have content from North America. 70% of it has to have aluminum or metal from North America, and 75% auto parts from North America. And of course, we have the question of the wages, which the total vehicle has to be built by an average wage of $16 an hour. So there's going to be some adjustments in the way that they calculate cost in Mexico, and we will see how that plays out in the future. Most of the automotive industry specialists that I talk to them they say to me that it's not a worry at this time. There's a lot of ways they can comply with this with the rules with the USMCA. Now, if we talk about Industry 4.0 in Mexico, I think the automotive industry is leading the charge in Mexico. they're adopting new technologies and continues to evolve. Basically, companies in Mexico are following the policies of their corporate offices. So this is has been a lot of positive impulse for this particular industry, so they can implement this type of new technologies in the automotive industry. Currently, I know of companies that have implemented some type of 4.0 into their injection molding, their CNC metal manufacturing, welding. Basically, they're implementing these new technologies on the inspection of the production through sensors, cameras, and also using some AI, IoT, and cloud computing. So this is a reality. Companies are using these new technologies and applying them to the industry. There is some reluctancy for companies to do this. Probably they start with simple inventory controls to know where the parts are in every single moment of the production. Following, and they move to other inspections and other manufacturing options. And when you talk implementing this type of new technologies in Mexico, we need to talk about the technology, the IT industry in Mexico. And just to give you a brief idea of the IT industry in Mexico, Mexico is the world's third largest exporter of these services. The sector has more than 4,000 companies, 20 clusters, around 30 research and development and training centers. It generates close to 500,000 jobs. The IT technology generates almost $2.5 billion annually. And the companies in the IT industry can be found all over Mexico. So if a company is looking to go into the Mexican market and provide some services, some technology service, they can be rest assured they're going to find talent and companies they can partner with in order to implement their technology or provide their services and extend and expand into this interesting market. Just to finish my presentation, maybe there's some interest as we're talking manufacturing. I think this slide is very important to talk about. If we're talking manufacturing needs in Mexico, I think this slide, we came up with it when I was working in ProMexico with my colleagues in the intelligence unit. We did a great effort to ask companies what are their needs and what they were not finding in Mexico. And we were surprised that there's still a lot of need for suppliers in Mexico. The companies are always looking for new suppliers to complement their industry. So this slide talks about the automotive supply chain. And we only took 10 processes as an example. So at that time, which was a couple of years ago, we ended up with an estimate that we needed, there was an opportunity for foreign suppliers to supply the automotive industry at around worth around $65 billion. And those processes that we were needed in Mexico were stamping, foundry services, forging, machining, automotive interiors, semiconductor manufacturers. We couldn't find no one that can do this in Mexico. Injection molding, designs and engineering, die casting, and cables and harnesses. So just putting this out there just in case there are companies interested in supplying or looking for opportunities in Mexico in the supply chain in the automotive industry. Thank you so much for the time, for the presentation. There's my contact information. I help companies locate manufacturing opportunities in Mexico. There's anyone who's interested in talking about that, happy to talk with them. If there are any questions, be happy to go over them and see how we can answer them. And thank you so much for your time and for listening to me. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. That was a great presentation. And we do have a couple of questions, if I might ask you. The first question is Pro-Mexico still moving forward?
Well, Pro-Mexico was dissolved by the new government, so Pro-Mexico is no longer active. Currently, the consulates and embassies are trying to do what Pro-Mexico used to do.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And the next question I have is, what geographic areas do you think will see the most automotive growth over the next few years?
So I think in the Bajío region, which is the geographic center of Mexico, which complies about 5 states, Jalisco, Aguascalientes, Querétaro, and others. I think there's we're going to see most of the growth. But on the southwest, we have a lot of potential because we have a lot of labor there, low-cost labor. Land is pretty inexpensive. So the potential to grow to those regions is great, although most people tend to cluster around existing industries. And that will be, again, in the Bajío region. But for those companies who want to explore the opportunities, low-cost areas, I think the southwest of Mexico offers great opportunities.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And we will be putting your presentation along with your contact information up on the website. So that should be up in a couple of days. Thank you for joining us. We have appreciated your presentation very much.
Thank you, Terry, for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.